Call the City Council adjourned meeting for Monday, November 20th, 2006 to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Roll call, please, Tracy.
Arbogast.
Here.
Garnis.
Here.
Gisselbeck.
Here.
Heller.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Mr. Meisenheimer's absent. Solberg. Here. Walder.
Here.
Wilson.
Here.
And York.
Here.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 1 is a motion to approve the minutes of the City Council meeting held on November 6th, 2006. Is there a motion to approve? So moved by Alderman Solberg. Is there a second? Second by Alderman Heller. Any additions or corrections? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 2 is vacation of a portion of Arrow Avenue, resolution number 06-52. Sarah?
Yes, this property is owned by Troy and Trent Bindi. They own the property that's adjacent to the right-of-way, which they're requesting to vacate. This is Subway and Highway 81 Liquors, which is on the northeast corner of Arrow Avenue and Highway 81. The portion they're requesting to be vacated is in red. The right-of-way extends from the center line of Arrow up to the top part here, and they'd like to vacate 7 feet. They're asking for this in order to have more maneuvering room on site for vehicles coming in and out. June of 2004, they came in with a building permit request to put up the Highway 81 Liquors and Subway. At that time, they were requesting a variance from lot size, which they received. Requirement was 20,000 square feet. They had 15,150 square feet. They asked for a variance from the rear setback. 30 feet was required, and they were granted permission to do it with 24 feet. And they asked for relief from the landscaping requirements along the west side, which is adjacent to the highway. Instead of putting 15 feet of grass all the way in there, they were allowed to have from 3 to 10 feet tapering. And they agreed to provide 15 feet of grass plus the sidewalk along Arrow Avenue. This hasn't been done yet, and it's 2.5 years later, and now they're asking to reduce that requirement down to 11 feet and to vacate the 7 feet. When you consider whether or not you should give away the right-of-way, you need to think about it carefully, because once it's given away, it's very difficult to get it back. And you should only give it away if you're absolutely sure that you will never need it. And I would say that in this location next to the highway, we know there's going to be some improvement coming in the future. We're not exactly sure what the state's going to do there. And there's a chance they actually might want more right away here. We don't know what they want. We can't say that they won't want any of it. It is also not a good idea to have an uneven right-of-way where you have a certain width and then it goes down to another width and then up to another width. You'd like to have a consistent width all along. This would chop it up. The right-of-way would be less here and then it would widen up here. So staff doesn't recommend approval of this. The Plan Commission considered this vacation request and they failed to recommend approval of it. And you may remember that a similar request came in earlier this year, which was denied by the council.
Thank you, Sarah. I was hoping that we'd wait till we had the public hearing before you began all that. But
Sorry.
Stan, can we go ahead with the public hearing? And is there anyone here to speak to the issue?
I'm Tom Burns. I'm appearing on behalf of Bindi's. You'll have to give me a little leeway because I didn't even know I'd be here today till this afternoon. Troy intended to be here alone, and he suffered a heart attack yesterday, so I got a call from his brother, and he asked me to come up here. But I'm familiar with the application. The 15 feet, which would include sidewalk and grass, would be in compliance with the resolution. I can tell you that I lost my train of thought there. Oh, we put this together in a hurry because we were under the gun to get the petition in, and it asked for 7 feet. And once Mr. Brinkman went out and surveyed it, turns out that 4.5 feet is really all that would have been needed in the variance. So, or to vacate it and still be able to pave that 4.5 feet. What he's doing is picking up 4.5 feet to have more room to have parking and access. And I believe that ordinarily the city wants to see the 28 feet anyway, but they were going to give them some leeway and let them have the 24 feet to begin with. And now that would widen it back out to what I understand the city likes to see for the that sort of parking area. And when this was brought up before with McElhaney, when McElhaney had joined in, I don't remember if that was approved or not. Does anybody know that?
It was not approved.
Okay. But that's what they want there. And Arrow Avenue is a wide, that's wider than most of the streets. It's 80-foot right-of-way. Now, I guess nobody can ever say what might happen in the future, but you do have an extra right-of-way. And if the council would be so inclined, I know that my clients would be willing to certainly have a 4.5-foot vacation rather than 7. As it turns out, that's all that was really needed for their purposes. I could answer or try to answer any questions.
I have one, Tom. If the state come in and wanted some of the east side of the road there to expand the highway, would they be willing to give that up at no cost, since we would be given the vacation if we decided to give it at no cost? Would your clients be willing to do that?
Well, they're gaining something at no cost, so I think I'll go out on a limb for them and say that if you wanted to make that a condition, that they would be willing to go along with that.
Council, have any other questions for Tom?
I have one maybe for Herb. If we were to build that road new, can you refresh my memory on how wide that road would be and how much easement and that would be there?
Under today's standards, we normally dedicate 66 feet of right-of-way. The older parts of town, back when they designed them, I think this one's an 80-foot right-of-way. You know, I'd defer to Mr. Peterson if he needs to add more. But today, in today's world, it'd be 66.
Okay, thank you, Herb. Any other questions? Thank you, Tom. Sarah, would you like to respond?
I neglected to mention one thing. They're asking for the extra space to be able to maneuver cars in and out because they have parking on the south side of the building, and they've recently acquired this lot, and they're planning to put parking there. And at the Plan Commission meeting, they said that they did intend to transfer these parking spaces around to the other side, which would free up this space and give them the maneuvering room that they would need.
Mayor, if I could also add,
Yes.
this was originally part of a variance action. Between staff and the applicant, we came to the site plan that is in your packets as an agreement and accommodation. The fact that if I recall, back then we told the applicant that this was going to be tight and it was going to be an issue. The right way to approach this isn't to vacate the right-of-way. The right-of-way, or the right way, is to restripe the parking lot, which it isn't striped today, and put in diagonal parking and use the parking in the back. That will solve the problem. Giving up an additional right-of-way won't necessarily solve the parking problem.
I see. Okay, thank you. Anyone else here to speak to the issue? If not, then we'll close the public hearing and go to council action. I'd like a motion to either approve or disapprove of Resolution
I'll go ahead. I think there's been a lot of exceptions made for this business already, and usually when there's exceptions made, it just creates more problems. And now we have another one that we're looking at with a whole lot of question marks attached to it. So I'm going to make the motion at this time that we deny the request.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Alderman Johnson. Any further discussion?
Well, I would just say that, you know, to be consistent with what we've done across the street and just to the east of there, with previous discussion, that's probably the only appropriate action. I think we ought to look at, if you're gonna vacate right away, you look at vacating, take a look at the whole street, and if we're gonna give up some, let's give it up all the way along and not just do it in a piecemeal basis.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? If not, then all those in favor of denying the request of Resolution 0652, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Request for vacation denied. Item number 3 is Eastwood's 9th edition. Sarah?
Okay, the Eastwood's 9th edition is owned by Joy Nelson and Peggy Haugen. It's about 3.3 acres, and it's part of the Eastwood's master plan. It's consistent with the master plan. I believe we're having...
We'll begin with the zoning designations. Item A, number 1 is second reading of the ordinance 0625. And then we go to the public hearing.
Okay, an ordinance amending zoning district boundaries by establishing zoning designation of R1 single-family residential district and R2 single-family attached residential district for certain real property annexed into the city in the northwest quarter of Section 28, 11752.
Thank you. That's the second reading of the ordinance. Next, we'll begin with the public hearing. Sarah, would you like to begin with that, please?
Sure. The property's already been annexed, and this is the next stage to zone it. They're asking for R2 for 3 of the lots, and I believe it's these 3 lots here, and the rest are R1. And the staff recommends approval of the zoning request.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else to speak to the issue?
Sarah,
Yes.
would you please describe the streets and the avenues where this is actually
Sure.
located?
I'm sorry. This is the Eastwoods development is located south of 14th Avenue North and east of 19th Street East. And I can bring up a bigger view of this. This is 12th Avenue, which exists right now within the plat, and they're just extending it along through. These 10 lots are the part that we're zoning.
If you look in your council packet, you've got a copy of the master plan in the packet. The area we're talking about is highlighted with black mark around it.
This area in red is the 3.3 acres in the plat that we're zoning. This is 19th Street East, and 14th Avenue North is on the top of this figure. This is the quarter section here that Eastwoods covers. And the roads are constructed right now up to about this point. They'll be extending further.
Thank you, Sarah. Is there anyone else then to speak to the issue or ask any questions? If not, then we'll close the public hearing and go to council action. Is there a motion to approve ordinance 06-25?
So moved.
So moved by Alderman Garnos. Is there a second? Seconded by Alderman Giselbeck. Any further questions or discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next, we go to the letter of assurance. Sarah?
Yes, the letter of assurance includes the items that are unusual are the temporary turnaround, since this is a dead end. We have some issues with existing dead end streets where our garbage trucks have trouble turning around. They end up backing in and backing out. And so we've asked for, and they've agreed to construct a temporary turn around. It's a T shape. Actually, the trucks would still have to back up, but not on the street. They'd come out to the end of the street, pull forward, and then backwards, and then come out forward, back out onto the street. And we're hoping that that will alleviate the problems that we're seeing in other locations on dead-end streets, for not only for garbage trucks, but also for snow plows and fire trucks. They've agreed to do that, and actually they've signed the letter of assurance. And it also includes a pro rata share for the cost recovery for land acquisition for the Willow Creek drainage, and that's about a little over $2,000.
That requires council action. We have a motion then to approve the letter of assurance.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Alderwoman Arbogast. Is there a second? Seconded by Alderman Solberg. Any questions or discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next, the plat approval resolution 06-55. Sarah.
Okay, the Plan Commission recommended approval of the plat on condition that the letter of assurance be signed by the applicant, and they have signed the letter of assurance.
Okay. Is there a motion then to the approval of resolution 06-55?
So moved.
So moved by Alderman Garno, seconded by Alderwoman Walder. Any further questions or discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 4 is the rezoning of property located southeast of the intersection of 1st Avenue and 3rd Street Northwest, Terco Incorporated, from I-1 Light Industrial to C1 Community Commercial. We'll begin with the second reading of the ordinance number 06-24.
An ordinance amending zoning district boundaries by rezoning certain real property from I-1 Light Industrial District to C1 Community Commercial District.
We'll begin with the public hearing. Sarah, would you like to begin with that?
Sure. This property is owned by Peter and James Vanella of Terco Inc. It's in red here. It's on the southeast corner of 1st Avenue North and 3rd Street West. And right now it's zoned I-1, although it's built more like a commercial district with no setbacks. The reason they're asking for the rezone is so that they can add a retail use to the existing uses that they have. This area was studied by the First District Association of Governments, and they did actually recommend that this piece plus a much larger area be rezoned to commercial. So this is consistent with that recommendation. The staff recommends approval.
Is there anyone here to speak to the issue? If not, then we'll go to close the public hearing and go to council action. Is there a motion then to approve ordinance 06-24?
Motion.
Motion by Alderman Wilson. Is there a second? Seconded by Alderman Solberg. Any questions or discussion?
Did you say so they could do retail duty? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. And right now there couldn't be retail on that street? It seems like it's kind of a retail area.
It does seem appropriate. It is built that way, but that's not what their use is right now.
Right, I know. Okay.
That portion's also zoned I-1, so.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, then all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Sarah. Next, item number 5 is ordinance number 6-23, amending chapter 5.04, regulating the storage, sale, and use of petroleum products. Stan will begin with the second reading.
Thank you, Mayor. I really don't have much to add from the comments I made at first reading. As I mentioned at first reading, it's an effort to clear up some obviously outdated language with regard to how we store petroleum products here in Watertown and are able to keep them. And if approved, all of us that have plastic gasoline cans in our garages won't be criminals any longer.
Very good. Thank you, Stan. Next, we'll go to council action. Is there a motion to approve 06-23? So moved by Alderman Giselbeck, seconded by Alderman Solberg. Any further questions or discussion?
A lot of people got gas cans, huh?
All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next, we go to item number 6, which is the first reading of ordinance number 06-26, amending Title II to allow a one-day exception to the prohibition of Sunday sale of alcohol on December 31st of 2006. Stanton?
Mayor and Council, as you know, at last meeting, you directed me to prepare the ordinance that's before you. I took your lead, and the language that's before you would, in fact, allow any on-sale licensee or off-sale licensee to be able to sell anything between the hours of 1 p.m. and 12 midnight on December 31st. So if approved, that will be the effect.
And then it expires at what time?
At midnight on December 31st, and then the intent of the ordinance, the language that's before you suggests that once that time has come, the ordinance is automatically going to revert back to its original language, so we don't have to go through this exercise a second time.
Very good. Thank you, Stan. And because it is first reading, we have no action to take care of. We'll move on to item number 7 is the approval of contracts for E911 service with the counties of Hamlin, Day, Grant, and Robertson. Chief Joe?
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Just before you tonight, you should have copies of the 911 contracts in your package for your examination. As the Mayor stated, those include Hamlin, Day, Grant, and Roberts County. The total for those services rendered would benefit the city by $76,423.50. So, unless you have any questions, I'm asking for you to authorize the mayor and the finance director to sign those contracts. So that's an annual agreement with each one of those counties.
And these contracts are similar to last year, Stan?
Yes.
Are they? Okay. Is there a motion then to approve the contracts for E91 service with the SO counties? So moved by Alderman Solberg, seconded by Alderwoman Walder. Any questions or discussion? If not, then all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Chief Vitek. Item number 8 is approval of the modification number 7 to the contract with the U.S. Transportation Security Administration for law enforcement services at the airport. Tracy?
Thank you, Mayor. Approximately 4 years ago, the city entered into an agreement with the Transportation Security Administration, under which our police department provides security services at the airport, meeting incoming Masaba flights and outgoing, seeing off outgoing flights. Under the contract, the city is reimbursed for those services on an hourly basis. And also under the agreement, the TSA has the option at the end of each federal fiscal year to either renew for the next year or to get out of the contract, and they have agreed to exercise their option to extend it for the 5th and final year of the agreement, which will run out at the end of September of 2007. So approving this modification would indicate the city is in agreement to extend that contract for its final year. The other provision in this modification, which was somewhat disappointing from a financial standpoint, is that the TSA is not agreeing to increase the hourly rate that we're reimbursed by 3%, which we had anticipated. However, under the agreement, that is certainly within their right to extend it, but at the same time withhold the increase that we had anticipated. Not a huge deal, just doesn't bode well, I think, for the future in terms of our future contract negotiations, which I would anticipate would come up sometime during this next 12-month period.
Thank you, Tracy. Is there a motion then to approve the modification to the contract with the U.S. Transportation Security Administration? So moved by Alderwoman Walder. Is there a second? Seconded by Alderman Johnson. Any further questions or discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 9 is the authorization for the finance office to pay the final billing to Andor Incorporated of $71,630 for the Community Rec Center project to replace the rooftop HVAC units. And Dave Peterson?
Good evening. We had received this bill along with some documentation on the HVAC units that were provided, and we didn't realize until just this past week that we had it. They clearly had it in before it should have been processed last month. So we're just asking for you to approve it at this time so they don't have to wait for another 3 weeks to meet the next billing cycle.
Thank you, Dave. Is there a motion then to approve the final billing? So moved by Alderman Giselbeck and seconded by Alderman Garnos. Any further questions or discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Dave. Item number 10 is authorization for the mayor to sign a billboard lease sub-agreement with the Chamber of Commerce. And Rick?
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, members of the City Council. You recall that just a few short months ago, you authorized the mayor to sign an agreement with drive-by signs for our Stormwater Phase 2 education outreach efforts. We're going to lease space and put a Stormwater Phase 2 message on 2 billboards within our community on Highway 212. We really appreciate the opportunity that's been given to us for high visibility. At the same time, we're probably right about the time that the ink got placed on the agreements for those billboards, the chamber approached the people that we've been dealing with, drive-by signs, and said, do you have any sign space? We'd like to put up a holiday message. And the idea came up, maybe there's a partnership that we could generate between the city and its Stormwater Phase 2 messages and our education efforts there, and we could again, that partnership with the Chamber of Commerce Marketing Committee. It seemed like a pretty good fit. We talked about this at the Public Works Committee, and it comes with their recommendation to authorize the mayor to enter into a sublease agreement with the Chamber of Commerce for about a month and a half, and we will certainly negotiate a price that's equitable and proportionate to the timeshare that they're going to have the space.
And the advertising message that they're promoting is Shop Watertown, Rick?
I don't know the exact message. It's going to be a holiday message.
I see, okay.
Is the most I understand out of the conversations I've had so far.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion then to approve the authorization to sign the lease sub-agreement?
So moved.
So moved by Alderwoman York. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Alderwoman Arbogast. Any further questions or discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Rick. Moving on to item number 11, which is the open, and you'll have a supplement next to you there on the open items. We'll begin with the first one, which is an authorization for the police department to participate in a National Institute of Justice grant for communications technology. Chief Vitek.
Good evening again, Mayor and City Council members. I'm just requesting authorization or permission to submit a concept paper to the National Institute of Justice regarding locator technologies with real-time updates, indoor and outdoor, to determine the location of personnel. This is a research and also development of equipment that doesn't exist. We've met with IDA Corporation out of Fargo, Bulberry Systems out of Minnesota, and also First District personnel here in Watertown. And this is zero ceiling on this per phase. It's $500,000. It's a possibility of developing some technology that doesn't exist as of yet. So I'm requesting permission to submit that to the National Institute of Justice with your blessing.
Is there a motion to approve this participation? So moved by Alderwoman Walder. Is there a second? Seconded by Alderman Wilson. Any further questions or discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Chief Vitek. Item number 2 on the open is the change order numbers 1 and 2 to the contract with the Whetstone Ag Supply for the Wisty Animal Nutrient Manager for a net increase of $886.06. Mike Williams.
Good evening. I thought I'd take an opportunity to show you a picture of one of the things we're building out here. This is a pilot project in our watershed. It's been experimented with in others, but what this is called a hoop barn. But we're calling it a stacking facility, and actually what it's going to be is going to be a manure composting facility. One of the problems that we have in controlling this, and as you'll see, that the control of the liquids becomes our biggest problem. And if they are under assault from a major winter or spring or summer storm, they have a tendency to overflow and huge volumes of nutrients escape. On this particular property, in 2001, the ice formed a major dam on the culvert that went underneath Highway 29 and backed water up about to the floor level of this facility. Not quite to it, but pretty close. Flooded out the entire feedlot that was existing. If you're looking at your pictures, you can see on the left side is the barn and the existing facility that's being used by the the landowner. And what we see on the inside, on the right, is the feed area. Now that's about a 15-foot wide area. This barn is 225 foot long by 50 foot wide. And this is going to be the feeding side. The rest of it, off the concrete, will be the composting facility. What's done here is we blow in about 6 inches of chopped straw, about 2 inches in length. And the animals use that and they lay in it. The temperature's about 130 degrees during the composting period. They love to lay on it in the wintertime when it's cold. There are no insects that live in that because the temperature is too high for the maggots, and the fly problem is not there. And the liquid evaporates up through the holes in the ceiling of this facility. Now we've invited the NRCS engineering staff from here to come and take a look at this. We have worked with the engineer from the people we bought this with, or bought it from, and we're also going to have a tour this winter of these facilities and show you how they work. The dairy industry down there in Millbank is also in the process of finishing one of these. And they're using one up at the Ortley dairy up there, North Swiss it's called. They've got 130 full-size cows in one of these buildings. A little bigger than this one, but I went up there and I could not believe it. There is no liquids. The cattle are clean. They lay on top of it. There's no odor. There are no insects. I can't think of a better thing to try. So we signed up for it. I had a little bit of a hassle with what the DENR wanted to let us pay for it. And we kind of worked that out because we're calling it oh gosh, can't think of the term here. Something that's a first of its kind anyway. We're going to use it as an experiment to see if it works. Pilot project. Thank you very much. This thing on my hip sometimes gets my brain. My nurses call it chemo brain, and it happens quite often. Now I'll get to business. I'm sorry to keep you here very long. What we did in the beginning is there used to be two big doors on this facility, and the doors were, one was 15 foot tall and the other one was going to be 20 some, and they were going to be one on each end. Well, they decided not to do that and only to have one. So the first change order was eliminating one door. And again, because it's a pilot project, we're not kind of sure what we're doing. We're kind of cruising along, working with the engineers, and we'll have some bugs that we have to iron out. And that removed the price, the bid price, from $72,817.95 to $70,128.41. The second change order just came, and if you look on the right side of that, on the outside of the building, you will see what looks like the beginning of an awning. That's exactly what it is. It's on the south side of the barn. And what they decided to do is to put the feed outside the building. It saves a lot of room on the inside and hassle of moving gates and stuff around. So this was something we decided to do, and that cost was $3,575.60. So the actual change order increases the cost of the project by $886.06. And we feel that that's a very good investment in what we're doing here.
Okay.
We'll be able to get some air in there in the summertime. That's going to be important.
Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
Is there a motion then to approve contract change orders number 1 and 2 in the amount of $886.06?
So moved.
So moved by Alderman Giselbeck. Is there a second? Seconded by Alderman Solberg. Any questions for the discussion with Mike? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Mike. Item number 3 on the open is acquisition of an easement from Mr. Robert McNamus. Stanton?
Thank you, Mayor. And members of the council, for several months with your approval, I've been negotiating a drainage easement with Bob McNamus. He owns B&E Concrete. It's a business located just south of Overhead Door on the west side of Watertown. As those of you on the Public Works Committee know from last week's meeting, I offered $5,500 for this 20-foot easement, and that offer has been accepted. In addition to the rights that we're going to acquire under the easement, we're also going to be acquiring some curb and gutter that was installed by Mr. McNamus that does help convey drainage across the easement area. And it's an improvement the city has agreed in our negotiations to pay additional compensation for. So tonight I'd ask your approval to authorize the mayor to sign that drainage easement with Bob McNamus for a cost of $5,500.
Is there a motion to that effect, please? So moved by Alderman Heller. Is there a second? Seconded by Alderman Wilson. Any further questions or discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 4 in the open is the first reading of Ordinance 06-27, the rezoning of Prairie Crossings property, Northridge 10th edition. Sarah?
Yes, this property is located north of 14th Avenue North, and it lies between 7th Street East and 11th Street East. This would be Highway 81. It's east of that. It's the south end of Northridge subdivision. An ordinance amending zoning district boundaries by rezoning certain real property from R3 multifamily residential district to C2 local commercial district.
And that would accommodate what to happen there, Sarah?
Well, it's Prairie Crossings assisted living center right now. It's really not zoned for that, and they were looking at adding a commercial use to that.
I see. And so this is the first reading, so there's no action required.
Right.
So thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.
Item number 5 on the open is the authorization for the city attorney to request from the Attorney General an opinion regarding the Planning Commission notice requirements under state law. Stanton?
Thank you, Mayor. For many years, I've been aware of an obvious confusion in state law that relates to the public notice requirements for Plan Commission recommendations that come before you folks on the City Council. If you'd like, tonight I can go through the semantics that have caused me that confusion, or I can do that here, or you can simply authorize me to seek that opinion to clarify the public notice requirements for Plan Commission recommendations. As you know, like I did with the electric scooters and the dehumidification at the ice arena, I can't ask for that clarification or opinion without your approval.
Is there a motion to grant that request for the approval from the Attorney General?
So moved.
So moved by Alderman Garnos. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Johnson. Any further questions or discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Going back to the agenda items, on to old business. We'll begin with A, assessment roll for the 2006 Street and Alley Special Assessment Project number 0601-C, Resolution 06-54. Dave Peterson.
Good evening again. As you remember from the last council meeting, when this assessment roll came up, there were several things that the residents out on North Lake Drive and Cutts Avenue didn't have a clear understanding of in the past, you know, when they petitioned to have this work done. And you tabled it at the last meeting. Alderman Johnson and Garnos set up a meeting with what?
I believe what we did was we approved everything but that portion that dealt with C.
Right. Okay.
And so that's what we're going to be discussing this evening.
Anyway, a meeting was set up with several of the property owners out there at the site to look at the site and discuss the issues that were brought up at the council meeting. And after the meeting, we discussed it a little bit and have come up with a proposed compromise as far as assessment roll. What we have done is we're recommending that we add the 40 feet that is Cutts Avenue into the equation as far as accessible footage. That would be additional cost that the city would pick up as a share of the total cost, and the city would also pick up half of the. If you remember, there was a asphalt fillet section that squared out the corner. Being as that 40 foot is one side of that fillet section, and the other side is along Cutts Avenue. We're recommending that the city pick up half of that cost. that would reduce the assessment as shown in the attachment for the property owners. The total additional cost for the city is slightly over $1,000 additional cost that is would be picked up by the city on this, and I guess that's our recommendation for adjusting the assessment roll.
Okay. And the Alderman Johnson, Alderman Garnos met with all those folks too, and do you have any comments to make before we go forward? Dave, anything more?
I think it's a good compromise, and you know, there's a big part of the project out there is city property, and I think this works out well and is reasonable, and hopefully they do as well.
Yes, sir. Please come forward if you'd like to say something.
I would like to add that the city does intend to go back next spring and fix that one portion of Boulevard that right now is still gravel.
Sure. Okay.
Well, I guess the reason I came here is we were supposed to be notified about a meeting on Friday, but instead they changed it to Monday, and they never told me about the meeting. So I guess the only thing I wanted was to say what I think should be done to improve it, and that would be, I guess, how can I show that? What I would like to see.
Do we have a map of it at all?
I have a little map, but you can't see that.
You can put it on the screen there.
While you're getting that set up, why was the meeting changed, or what was the deal?
Well, we had talked about one day, but there was nobody, we couldn't make it, and so we'd asked to change it to a different day, and I assumed that everybody was notified of a change in the schedule.
Oh, I see. You were charged with the notifying of the people that were going to be affected, Daryl? Or... Caller ID, or excuse me, message? Yeah, right. Sure. Sure, sure. Okay, sure. Okay, thank you.
Well, I guess I wasn't told, so that's why I'd like to say what I'd like to have done. How do I show that on there?
Rick, could you help him with the arrow or the pointer?
Okay. Okay, all right. Well, the old, originally it went around like this, you know, as a curve, and then they changed it to include more of a square corner. And now it's right here, the way it's made with the square corner. But I think it needs a little bit of tar in here to take that corner out, and I think that would solve the whole problem.
As opposed to putting that landscaping, that gravel, and that just tar it, you're saying? Is that correct?
I would think tarring would be better.
I see. Herb, what can you say about that?
Well, you got to remember this is still a 20-foot road, I believe, and you know we can try to build a Taj Mahal here, and honestly, what the individual at the podium is asking for is what we originally had designed, and we changed the design, you know, to accommodate the rest of the people. What we discussed out on site was the idea of not only putting in some grass but also putting in some posts on that corner to put definition to the corner with some markers so that they could be seen at night to keep people from driving on that corner.
I see.
We stood right on that corner out there, and once we come back in, I mean that's all city property to the north. We're going to recreate that as all grassland in there because it's all parkland. And what we've done is we've created kind of a square intersection, which would be more typical of two streets coming together with a little curve in the center, because there's an access that goes to the south. And we will, when we redo that, make it so that people aren't cutting the corner there. I mean, we're gonna, once people realize there's grass there, you're not gonna be driving across it. And we don't have people driving across cutting the corners that much in most of the places in town. So I think once it gets recreated next spring.
But usually they don't cut the corners because
they're going to cut the
curb
corner
there.
this winter.
Yeah.
But there's nothing we can do about it this winter, but we're going to take care of it next year.
Well, I think a little tar, though, would solve it a lot better.
Well, then you just get we've already got the typical curve that we would have. Then you would be going on beyond what you would normally have on a street.
Well, what you have now is kind of a square corner, but if there was just a little bit of tar like that, I stepped it off tonight, and it was about 14 feet at the very widest to nothing, on both ends. So it was not very much. I guess that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion then to approve the new amounts then for the assessment roll that was met with the property owners?
So moved.
So moved by Alderman Garnos. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Johnson. Any further discussion or questions? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next we go on to other old business. Is there any other old business to come? If not, we'll move on to number 13 is new business. Is there any new business to come before the council? Item number 14 is liaison member reports. Are there any reports, Nancy, tomorrow morning?
Safety committee meeting tomorrow morning, 7 a.m.
Okay. Next, we will not be going into executive session, and would like to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. That'll be coming up in a few days, and have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved by Alderman Giselbeck, seconded by Alderman Solberg. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. We are adjourned.